What a day it was today, folks. Mark this one down in your calendar. This one's going to be in the history books one day. The 8th of November, 2023. The, the Optus blackout. The entire country, everyone who had an Optus mobile phone or internet connection just couldn't access anything. It was ridiculous. My personal phone is with Optus, so I couldn't use anything. It caused a lot of problems in the business, but we actually made $10,000, and it's all because of this blackout, and I'm going to get into that in a second. So, yeah, if you live in Australia and you're listening to this not a year from now and you remember what happened, Optus had a massive blackout, and they released a statement a moment ago and just said it was caused by a fault. It was a bit vague. They didn't really give much reasoning behind that. But yeah, no one could access the internet. No one could call anyone if they were connected to Optus, which is like a lot of people in Australia. Millions and millions of people were disconnected. And this was really bad for a lot of businesses. Fortunately, our business phone was with Telstra. We also have it set up so that even if Telstra went down, we have a call forwarding thing so that they can go through to a different phone, which is with a different ISP. But yeah, I know a lot of people who lost a lot of money because their phone was with Optus or their Wi-Fi was with Optus and they couldn't use things like FPOS. They couldn't make calls. They couldn't do emails. They couldn't do invoices. It was just mayhem. I don't know how much that blackout has cost Australia, but it's not going to be cheap. One day where businesses can't operate across the country, that's going to be a big hit. But anyway, what's really funny is actually I'll backtrack for a second. So the first thing I saw when I woke up today was that my phone was on SOS mode, which means you have no signal. And I was really confused. I didn't know what was going on. Tried restarting my phone a couple of times. And then someone comes in and tells me that Optus had a blackout. And I was like, okay, that's not good. My phone's with Optus. I can't use it. So the first thing I think of is, what if my staff are with Optus and they can't access the internet and they can't look at their schedules? They can't get directions to the houses they have to clean. So it was bad. And so I went to Stacey, our operations manager. I knew where she was, so I went straight to her. Her phone was with Telstra and she had the business phone, which is also with Telstra. So she's just frantically calling staff members, making sure everyone is where they need to be. We had like 5 people who had phones with Optus or carriers that were under Optus. And so that was really tough navigating all that. I had to drive all the way to someone to let them into a house because they didn't know where the key was because they couldn't access the job notes. Then I drove all the way back, helped Stacey kind of recon a little bit, tried to calm down the chaos a little bit. But yeah, it was just a massive wake-up call that like one little thing, if we just can't access our phones, business is like screwed, okay? So the morning started off really badly. We got it under control, but it wasted a lot of time and money. That's when things started to take a turn for the better, thankfully. So our business phone is with Telstra, and usually it's ringing a lot. I mean, it rings a lot every day just because we're on the top of Google. We're number 1 for most search terms, and so people are calling nonstop throughout the day. Today was even more crazy. The phone was just ringing off the hook. People were calling. They were sounding flushed on the phone. They were like, we had a cleaner supposed to come in. We can't contact them. They don't even know how to get to our house. We haven't discussed all that. Or there were people that had quotes scheduled with other companies and the companies couldn't show up and they couldn't get in contact. So there was just all this chaos. So we actually got one commercial walkthrough that had phoned us, and they had another company, a big company in Bunbury, that they couldn't get through to. And so they just had to get someone else in. That person was us. We were the first person that picked up, apparently. So we got a commercial walkthrough scheduled 2 days from now because of this Optus thing. We also got a post-construction clean. This was like an emergency post-construction clean. Someone called in saying that there was a house being renovated next door and they had all their windows open, and so all the construction dust went into their house and they needed it cleaned right now. And they had cleaners supposed to go in there, but again, they couldn't contact them, so they had no idea what was going on. They just had to assume that it was cancelled. So we actually quoted them about $130 an hour, I think, for about 9 hours. It was a pretty big quote. It was an emergency clean, and they were quite happy to pay that price. So we ended up sending 5 cleaners there for about an hour and a half, something like that. And We got that done. And we're able to get that done because we're always overstaffed, because that's our hiring strategy. We always have a revolving door of cleaners. We always have new people in training ready to go. And so when we had this influx of jobs for the day because of this blackout, we were able to do it, and we had the capacity to do it because we always practice this overstaffing method. So that was another job we got that was very profitable, over $130 an hour. And then there was another one. There was another vacate clean. They had to get it done today because the keys were being handed back that afternoon. So we got in there. We quoted that. It was a similar quote. It was around 125 an hour. Again, very, very profitable. And it's elite that we only got because of this Optus blackout. And so in a time where businesses are frantically trying to get things together and they're losing money and time and they can't do anything, we actually found a lot of business in it. We actually thrived during that. And it got to the point where we almost doubled our usual revenue for that day. So today is a Wednesday. Most Wednesdays we're only doing about $4,000. We ended up doing over $8,000. We did nearly $10,000 just because of this blackout and because we were the only people answering the phones. And so big takeaway, actually two big takeaways from this is make sure you're answering your phones. You know, especially when it's not a blackout event, when everyone's phone's working, make sure when that phone rings, you pick it up, because you have no idea what that call could be. You have no idea what that incoming lead is. It could be a $200,000 a year client. It could be a really good house cleaning client. It could be someone who's going to refer you a lot of business if you do a good job for them. You have no idea what that call is going to be until you pick it up. 9 times out of 10, if you let that call ring out, or if you're busy and they don't get through to you, they won't even leave a message and they won't call back. So make sure you're answering the phone. We get so much business just by answering the phone because so many other companies don't do it. Second takeaway, don't use Optus. We're done with Optus. I think Australia is done with Optus. We are completely over their shenanigans. There was that data breach. There was this. We're over it. Get a Telstra plan. Get a plan with anyone but Optus. And so, yeah, it was just a really funny scenario. And I told my friends about it who are also in business. They didn't have a day that was as good as mine. They actually struggled a lot. They had a lot of staff who had phones with Optus and they couldn't get through to them. And it was just absolute chaos. And it's just really funny that we were able to make light of a really dark situation. Unfortunately, a lot of other businesses couldn't. It's going to cost the country a lot of money. I have no idea what's going to come of this. There's probably going to be lawsuits. Who knows? But for this wide of a blackout, to this magnitude and this extent, to be caused by a little fault on Optus's end is a little bit ridiculous. But big takeaway there is that even in times where you think everything is hitting the fan and everything is going completely south, there are ways you can actually do a lot better through that. It's the same in times of economic downturn. When the market is crashing, that's actually when people become the richest. People are buying the dip. People are buying at the very bottom and then riding it back up to the top. That's what Warren Buffett does. He hoards cash. Why does he hoard so much cash? It's because he wants the market to hit rock bottom so he can buy up a ton of cheap stock and then ride it back up to the top. It's the same in any situation in life and in business. Once we got over that small hurdle of making sure all of our staff knew what they were doing and everything was okay, we immediately switched our thinking to, okay, how can we actually capitalize on this situation? And then we quickly realized that it was just going to do it itself because our phone was ringing like nonstop. And we jumped on that opportunity. We quoted pretty high because these people were desperate and they were like emergency cleans and they were happy to pay it because really time was of the essence. There was a vacate clean that had to hand the keys back in that afternoon. There was a post-construction clean where they don't want to go to sleep that night with construction dust all throughout their house because that's bad for their health. So they were happy to pay a premium price for us to get in there on short notice with a solid team who could handle it that afternoon. And so, yeah, just really eye-opening experience, really funny experience. It's a good story that we're going to tell, I'm sure. It sucks for a lot of other businesses. Hopefully you weren't affected if you're listening to this and you're in Australia and you're with Optus. I really hope it didn't affect you because that could have been a really bad day for us. And I'm just grateful that it wasn't. So that was just a little interesting thing that happened today that I thought I'd share. Just, an eye-opening experience. It just makes you think about how even in these bad times, even when bad things happen, good things can come of it. And you can actually do a lot better than in any other circumstances. So yeah, thanks Optus, but also no thanks Optus. Never again. I'm probably going to switch my personal phone to Telstra now. So yeah, that's all I had to share with you today. Just a funny little anecdote from today's chaos. And I can't wait to see how this unfolds in the media because a lot of people aren't going to be happy after today. So thanks for listening to another episode of Self-Made. And just remember, when things are bad, especially for everyone else, it's a level playing field. Everyone's experiencing the same thing as you. Go out there and make the best out of a bad situation.